Today I'm going to show you what the new 2023 STAAR Reading Online test with new item types will look like in 8th grade. As you know, the STAAR test is changing. In 2023, all students will take their Reading STAAR test online. Many of the questions and how they are formatted will look different from past tests. To help you become more familiar with the new format, I'll be working through one passage from the 8th grade online sampler of new question types found on the TEA website. Angela here from Custom Classroom, helping make test prep simple. To begin, go to the TEA website. I have the link in the description where there's the online sampler tests. Here you're going to sign in. And today I'm going to go to 8th grade, and I'm going to go to the STAAR 8th grade reading new item types. We're going to select and begin the test now. So here is what the new online test will look like for STAAR. I recommend spending some time going through all the features, but today I'm going to simply look at the paragraph and the new item types, talking about what the answers are, how many points the questions are worth, and the TEKS that it aligns to. So let's begin. Read the selection and choose the best answer to each question, starting from scratch. When we pulled in the gravel driveway, Grandpa Joe was weeding his garden. He stood up, brushed off his knees, and greeted us with wide open arms. In his muddy work gloves, rumpled jeans, and lime green garden shoes, he looked nothing like the refined grandfather I remembered. The ultra-professional bank president who loved numbers had retired and let his hair run wild. I hadn't seen him since he sold his house in the suburbs, and I wasn't expecting him to look so different. After the hugs and kisses, Grandpa couldn't wait to show off his garden. Mom reminded him that she was just dropping me off and that she had to get back for Jessica's recital, but Grandpa went on pointing out his almost ripe tomatoes, complaining about the rabbits eating his lettuce, and lauding homegrown produce. The man had been preoccupied for decades with interest rates, now cared only about organic gardening. It worried Mom, the idea of Grandpa alone in that old cottage in the middle of nowhere. That was the real reason I was there, so I could report back. Once Mom was gone, Grandpa turned to me and said, "Now, Anthony, if I remember correctly, you like pasta with pesto sauce." I eagerly nod. It was true. The grocery store by our house had the best pesto sauce. "That's perfect," Grandpa said. "We'll make some. Just look how my basil is coming up." We broke off some basil, pulled up some garlic, and then drove 15 miles to the nearest co-op grocer where Grandpa bought Parmesan cheese, pine nuts, and olive oil. I spotted some ready-made pesto sauce, but didn't mention it. "Do we need pasta?" I asked. "No," Grandpa replied proudly. "I make my own now." On the drive home, Grandpa asked, "What's the point of having Nano if he never makes his big home-cooked meal?" Nano, Italian for Grandpa. I had never called him that, even though he often talked about how his parents had come to the United States from Italy. It had never really, I had never really thought of him as particularly Italian. "My parents made everything from scratch, like the old country," he said. "But I never seemed to have time to cook when I was working full time. Fortunately, your mother liked sauce from a jar when she was a kid." He winked at me. Grandpa had printouts of recipes he had taken from the internet. First, he mixed egg and flour into dough, and then he cranked the dough through a pasta maker over and over until he thought it was perfect. Then we got started on the pesto. While he cleaned the basil leaves, I grated the Parmesan. It wore out my wrists, but when I was finally done, I had a beautiful pile of cheese. Then Grandpa showed me how to dice the garlic cloves. He put all the ingredients in the blender that looked like it hadn't been touched in decades, poured in some olive oil, and let it grind away. When it was finished, it wasn't all smooth and creamy like the stuff at the grocery store, but I figured brown and clumpy must be more authentic Italian. Then Grandpa dropped his homemade pasta into boiling water. When everything was ready, he proudly served me a heaping helping. I twirled up a forkful while he watched. I sucked in my mouth and It was awful. The garlic overpowered my senses, and I thought I might choke. The pasta was gooey, actually gluey. So, Grandpa said, his eyes sparkling, what do you think? Before answering, I thought about our day, the garden, the shopping trip, the prep work, the embarrassing story he shared about Mom that I store away for later use. I love it, Nano, I said. Then his face broke into a smile so warm that I was sure I hadn't told him a lie. All right, now let's look at the question. So question number 1 is a multi-select question. Which word defines the word louding as it is used in paragraph 2 of the story? So it says select 2 correct answers. So the first option is sharing, which is not correct. Praising is correct. That's what louding is. You're praising yourself. Describing, no. Gathering, advocating is kind of like, yeah, you're praising, you're advocating for how great you did something. So this question is worth 2 points. It is a context clue question, which is 8.2b. All right, let's look at question 2. This is a text entry question. Enter your answer in the box. The author uses blank person point of view in this story. Well, this story is first person because we can see them using I, or the boy telling the story using I. So this is a point of view question, which is 8.9e. Question number 3, this is a multi-part question. This question has 2 parts. Part A, what is the main message the author conveys in the story? A, cultural traditions should be passed on between generations. No, that's not really the focus. Exploring new activities may lead to greater happiness. Not exactly. The process of creating may be more meaningful than the result. Well, that sounds pretty good because the grandson seems to appreciate them making it over the fact that it actually tastes not very good. And D, practice is often the key to achieving excellence in a new skill. So I would go with C here. Which sentence from the story best supports the answer in part A? So now that we decided that the process is more important than the end result, which actual line from the story supports that? So A says, even though he often talked about how his parents had come to the United States from Italy, I had never really thought of him as particularly Italian. That doesn't have anything to do with the result. Fortunately, your mom liked sauce from a jar when she was a kid. Again, nothing with that. First, he mixes egg and flour into dough, and then he cranked the dough through the pasta maker over and over until he thought it was perfect. I don't think so. Before answering, I thought about our day. Okay, that's a better one because he's saying that the actual process, this day, is more meaningful. So that kind of proves that. So here, this question is worth 2 points. It is a author's purpose or message, which is 8.9a. All right, let's look at question number 4. It is a match table grid. Determine whether each detail should be included in a summary of the story. Select the correct answer in each row. So here we're going to read a detail from the story and we're going to decide if we should include it in the summary or to not include it in the summary. Grandpa decides to make pasta with pesto sauce for Anthony. I would say yes, include it, because that's what a lot of the story is about. Grandpa says that when Anthony's mom was a kid, she liked pesto sauce from a jar. I think that's probably too small of a detail. Anthony and Grandpa spend the day gathering ingredients and preparing the pesto and the pasta. Yes, that's what a lot of the passage is about. Anthony tells Grandpa that he loves the pasta with pesto sauce, even though it tastes awful. Again, that isn't very important to the story. So all of them are included except for this one detail about the pesto sauce from the jar. So this question is worth 2 points, this table, and it is a summary question, which is 8.6d. Question number 5. This is a short constructed response. Read the statement carefully, then enter your answer in the box provided. Explain how Anthony's behavior in paragraph 12 through 14 affects the resolution of the plot. Support your answer with evidence from the story. So here we're looking at the end when he is trying to decide what to do when he doesn't like the pasta. So how does this behavior affect the resolution of the plot? So a possible answer to this question could be, although Anthony thinks his grandfather's cooking is just awful, he recalls his day with his grandfather and the pretends to love the food. I love it. Anthony's behavior leads to a positive resolution for the plot. So this question is worth 2 points. It is about character specifically, and so that's 8.7b. All right, question 6 is an extended constructed response. So this is an example of how writing will be included in the reading language arts test in the new STAAR. So here it says, read the story starting from scratch. Based on information in the story, write a response to the following. Explain how Anthony's interactions with Grandpa help to develop a theme about how sharing experiences may lead to a greater understanding between people. Write a well-organized informational essay that uses specific evidence from the story to support your answer. Remember to clearly state your controlling idea, organize your writing, develop your ideas in detail, use evidence from the selection in your response, use correct spelling, capitalization, punctuation, and grammar, manage your time carefully so that you can review the selection, plan your response, write your response, revise and edit your response. Write your response in the box provided. So here this question is labeled specifically with 8.6b, which is a written response that demonstrates understanding of a text. But here it also is focusing on theme and you're writing an informational essay. So there's quite a few kind of standards coming into effect here. So this question is worth 5 points. Correct response would involve the student providing an extended explanation of how Anthony learned new things about Grandpa as he spent the day with him, which leads to a greater understanding. The student would need to provide thorough evidence from the selection to support this controlling idea. So here you can see a sample of what some of the new questions will look like on the 8th grade STAAR test. If you are looking to help your students prepare for the new item types, check out my new STAAR warm-up. The link can be found in the description. I hope you found this video helpful. Check out the playlist to learn more about other grade levels.